Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. Here's step one.
Okay. Well, guys, welcome. I'm glad you guys could join us. We're excited to kind of share this with you and have David join us. The clean water, we'll kind of share our little bit of the story, and then we'll let David share. When Bree was first born, she was just like ashy all the time, sensed everything, and we changed laundry detergent and tried all kinds of stuff. Couldn't figure out what it was, and some of our friends were, they knew. They would move into clean living, and water was one of the things they talked about. And so they would, they had birdies for their drinking water. One of the things that they always talked about was whole home filtration, because it's not just what you drink, it's what you're bathing in, what you're brushing your teeth in, and all of these things can affect us. And so as soon as we switched and got a filter for our home, Maria's skin got better instantly. And it was a big blessing to our family, and it gave us the flexibility that when we had, a girl in our church whose son had health problems and she was boiling water for his bath, we said, hey, you can come get him back at our house, because he had to have clean water. We had another friend going through cancer treatments, and we offered our clean water. So even just having it was a blessing, not just to us, but to other people. And so we really think that access to not just water, but clean water is a huge part of just overall health in general. And so we're just really glad to have the AquaOx. And so David's going to come share his story of how much it's helped him, and really what sets this filter apart from others. Because, one of the big things with like the filter that some of our family has, they have to add salt and beads and resin and all these things to the filters all the time to keep them fresh, keep them going. I've never touched that. It's been at the other house for years. I've set it up at this house, and it cleans itself every 3 days. So you're not having to fool with it all the time. You just kind of install it, and it protects your kidney. So we're very thankful for it. Thank you for this event. Did you want to hear something?
Is this on?
It's on.
Well, I just wanted to add, for females with Bria, she got a lot of UTIs as a little girl until we swapped the water filter. And the naturopath that we see, she said mainly all of her females, like college girls, young girls, are all getting these UTIs from their choice of water. The college students, and she's just repeatedly giving them on protocols to get, and it comes right back from the water. But when we got the AquaOx, we have had no issues. And I did not know this, but parasites can come through the water, and Bria was testing for a waterborne parasite. And as soon as we swapped to the AquaOx, we did a parasite cleanse, and we haven't had any issues. And then a doctor, a pediatrician, like, oh, just put her on something for her tummy discomfort, diarrhea, but it was the water.
Yeah.
So that was pretty.
Awesome.
All right, I'm put on my phone. All right, I'm going to, just by way of introduction, and because I'm a Marine and we just had our 250th birthday yesterday. Let's see, this is an intro I share usually when I speak in a lunch setting. I'm not sure, I'm casting. I'm not sure if the sound's going to work, so if it does, I'll let this kind of speak for itself. So this 2-minute video will save me about 20 minutes of talking with a little bit of our cancer festival.
It started off like any other normal day, and I walked out with another pilot. We climbed into our F-18 and we went out over the ocean, and we did some great flying. I received a phone call from a doctor who had pulled a small tumor that was about the size of the tip of my pinky out of my jawbone, right here. Only 50 others that had what I had that they could show me, and not one of them had survived 5 years. We realized both the military and the civilian doctors didn't have a solution for us. It was a 0% success rate. It was a zero end game. I literally was thinking, well, let's just go now. Why go through the hell of cancer, and why go through what we're anticipating? All of what cancer brings as you go to your ultimate demise. As I looked back into my room and I saw my daughter asleep, 6 months old, asleep in the bed next to my wife, I knew at that moment I had to fight for them. I had a purpose. I'm Lieutenant Colonel David T-Bone Trombly, United States Marine Corps. I'm the first Marine fighter pilot to have fought a rare bone cancer, beat it naturally, and be reinstated to flight status. This story is for you to understand how we beat it but more importantly, it's for you to learn about how you can have hope, peace, encouragement in whatever battle you're facing, whatever fire you're walking through, whatever valley you're in. This story starts in a cockpit, and it details the journey and a long fight to get back into a cockpit. You have a different fight. Whatever your fight is started somewhere, and you may not know the end game, but you have a goal, you have a desire, you have a path that you're currently on. My hope is as you read, that you find hope, that you find peace, that you find encouragement, that you find empowerment to continue to fight your fight.
So I appreciate Ben and Mike for having me come up. I've used this, see if that'll get quiet. I've used this, this video when sharing like Devin mentioned, leadership event or a church group or something to that effect. Because it just saves a lot of time. I'm the guy who was diagnosed with rare bone cancer, given 2 years to live. That was 25 years ago. I celebrated 24 years cancer-free in September. And we were talking earlier, I had open heart surgery back in April. And there's a valve decided one to like a tendon decided one was like, we're a machine. And machines break. Now, I know I'm probably in Bama country here. Am I close? A little bit, yeah. Just a little bit. So it's the weirdest thing to me, and I know I'm going to lose my entire audience here, but that's good. I'll go home early. I can't stand when some of Bama fans that are like, I hate the Patriots. I'm like, how can you hate the Patriots? The Patriots are the NFL version of Bama, right? You know what I'm saying? We're awesome. You're awesome. It's just, it is what it is. Anyway, but I share that to say that when working with folks, I like to talk about offense and defense. And one of the folks we always get the football analogy of, especially in SEC country, defense wins championships. And what I want to talk to you then about is defense. So whether it's fighting cancer, recovering from some other ailment or challenge, or just wanting to protect our children, our greatest resource is the next generation and protecting them. I've been blessed, all my children and all of my nieces and nephews, because I'm the oldest of my brother and sister. So they had kids after I had kids. So when we were fighting our cancer fight, my kids were young. My brother and sister hadn't had kids yet. So my parents, my brother and sister, they all ended up starting home house water purification on. So my nieces and nephews, my children have all benefited from what challenges we had. That's they built up in a house that was healthy, that had pure water. Sounds good. The reason I bring up Tom Brady is, his body, he treated his body like an example. He treated the machine like it was. That's why he could play NFL football until he was in sports. Plus, he was the quarterback, not the offensive line. But the point that I want to make is when my heart issue happened back in April, it was just a mechanical failure, a tendon popped, and we had to go surgery to repair that. We did that. We did that in Cleveland Clinic, and we came back the other side, doing incredibly well. And not, but coming home to recover, knowing that being the place that I want to recover. At home, we got our diet, we have our water, we have all those things that we're not worried about. So it's just the next health challenge. We have to go through life. This book, and Amanda said to bring some, but I'm out because I spoke at a leadership event just a couple of weeks back before my son got married, and I sold them all, so I didn't have any. But this is our website, and on here we have a whole section on the AquaOx. This is the original owner, Mike Corcoran, was a retired Army colonel. I'm a retired Marine lieutenant colonel. So he's Army, I'm Marine Corps, and somehow we were still friends. I'm not sure how that worked, but he and I I'm bringing that up to say it's a veteran company, and he was a godly man of integrity. He unfortunately died. He died of a stroke shortly after that during COVID. So you can put two and two together. I'm not going to go down that path right now. But we have had a long working relationship for many years. He now has, there are other owners that are there, and we still have a great relationship. In fact, I was talking with one of them today, and I said, hey, I want to take care of these people. I want to give them a great deal, and I'll share that with you in a little bit. So I've been with these guys and working with them for the better part of well over a decade. But we've been talking to people about water for, 25 years. I've only been cancer free for 24. So we've been working at the cancer ministry for 25 years. Only been cancer free for 24. So we went into our cancer fight, which the entire battle is chronicled in the first half of this book. The second half of the book is the second battle and second miracle. I got to give God all the glory for me being alive because I never did chemo, radiation, or surgery. I'm 100% natural to the raw diet. Put the water filter on the home, did deep intestinal cleansing, and did all kinds of natural stuff from around the world, and did things that some things you couldn't do in the United States. I actually spent a month in Switzerland. There's 5 chapters. I refer to that as the European theater of the battle plan. And I spent even 4 weeks in Switzerland and chronicled that out in 5 chapters about things you couldn't do here in the States. So like neurotherapy and hyperthermia stuff that, guess what? Neurotherapy is still a challenge, but you can find it in certain states that are open to it, like Georgia. And then you found hyperthermia, which you can now find in different places to different varying degrees. So a lot of the reason I wrote the book when I was retiring 6 years ago was to drive home, the battle plans that mostly folks that are fighting cancer. So Amanda, thanks for letting me bring some, but I just didn't have any. I can leave you with my cards on my website if you've got friends or family that are dealing with cancer. Would love for them to have it. We don't make anything off the book. I mean, Amazon does. So I think we make $1.37 per purchase. But you can order it off Amazon or off of any number of different websites, and they'll have an entire guide. So before I walk away from the book, what I want to say is this: in the book, there's a chapter on hyperthermia. There's a chapter on raw diet. There's a chapter on virtually everything we did for hyperthermia. There's a chapter on vitamin C. There's a chapter on why I took the metal fillings out of my teeth, and I don't have any root canals, because root canals can be a causal factor for cancers, because they lie on a meridian that stops the channel and flow of energy to that particular organ. Most women who have had breast cancer, my mom had it twice, and she beat it twice by the grace of God. So my mom, hepatitis took my mom, but breast cancer didn't. She fought it, she beat it. 11 years later, fought it again, and lived a number of years before hepatitis got. But one of the things we learned is that women that have breast cancer usually have a root canal on that particular meridian that goes through the breast.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, these are the things that we learned, and these are the things that we were joking about. I was joking with your husband about the 500-page book.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the end. So I was joking because one of my Marine buddies said, I was like, hey, happy birthday. Yeah, you look great for 250 years old, brother. And he asked me how my heart thing was going. I said, my heart thing's going great. I've already climbed mountains, and I did a 8-mile hike in the jungle 2 weeks ago on the last day to my son. And he's like, that's awesome. I said, what are you going to do? What are you going to do next? He was like, what mountain are you going to climb? I said, I'm going to write another 500-page book. And I'm going to tell you what he said, because he was the smartest. But I said, no, hey, you tell these stories because when you learn something, you want to share it. And the book is to give God the glory. And my wife, the thanks, because she was the smart one. Kind of like you walk into a man's house and you see what kind of house this is and what's on the walls and the oil and the thieves in the bathroom. Like, my wife is like me, and just, I don't have a choice. We're going to have healthy stuff in the house. Right. So when I was dealing with the cancer fight, she's like, you need to do this. You got to eat this way. You need to do that. Break up the garden hose. We're going to do colonics. I'm like, colonics. Yeah, it's usually funnier than that. You need more men in the room to can get the laugh. But anyway,
I'm sure if you were serious. No, he's serious.
I do my wife does a lot of the oil classes, but when it comes to like detoxing, I love that, because this is what we study, and this is how we beat these things. So when I do a climate class, I bring in a 5-gallon bucket, and I bring in a garden hose, and I literally walk in with that stuff and I drop it in the middle of the room. Okay, today we're going to talk about, we're going to clean all that. And the church ladies usually balk, but they love me anyway. I still get my hugs at the end of the night. So, in the book, there's one chapter for everything we do, except one. Water, we have 2 chapters. It's that important. It's that significant. Water is the foundation. I use the analogy, talking about football. You can have all the oils. You can have all the organic food you want. You can have even the right mindset, because emotions are very important, right? Faith, you can completely trump the will of God with a bad attitude, right? It's like, oh, I just got a death sentence, as the doctors have to be right, but there's a cure out there for you, but you just buy into what they tell you, and you just roll over and just take it, right? So there's so much that goes into it. But everything that you do that's offensive in nature is like, taking one step forward, but then you hop in the shower and you take a bath and you take 2 steps backwards. Because the number one source of toxic load in our bodies is the water that we bathe in. It's not the water we drink, it's not the water that we cook with, it's the water that we bathe in. Because the skin's the body's largest organ. So you have to, in here, in the chapter, right? So I titled the first one, "Our Defense is Critical Vulnerability," like an ultimate, and they're not bothering me at all. So
It just sounds like they're not I'll read them.
yeah, I'm super usually bothering me.
Sorry, we're first parents. I don't know what bothers me.
So like when you're on an airplane and my parents freak out, so kids make
Yes.
my wife always like, it's reform.
Yeah.
So like we always want to make them feel good.
Oh, shit, there's.
But I totally get it, and I know it's right there.
No, there's my flash.
The first chapter was our defense is critical vulnerability, and in here I speak about the challenge. So I just want to hit you up with a couple of pieces of information. Some of the data in here is the very data that I researched 25 years ago when I was diagnosed with cancer. So to back it up quickly, we moved to Pensacola from our military base in South Carolina. So I was living in base housing, which is never going to be great water. And you don't have to be in the military to know that military bases don't have great water. You just have to watch the news for the last 5 years and know what happened with Fort Pebbles and Camp. So we left base housing, came to Pensacola, and I'd been a flight student in Pensacola. So I wanted to, since I couldn't fly, I was grounded. And since I lived grounded and cured, I was grounded from flying. And I knew this was going to be a long fight. So I wanted to at least be productive. I wanted to be in the classroom. I wanted to teach students. So I was like, can you get me to Pensacola? I didn't know anything about Pensacola when I was there for a few months when I was a flight student. When we got here, we moved into our house on Friday, and on Sunday we were driving to the church that had been recommended from our church up in South Carolina. And I literally almost ran somebody over, and it's a guy standing in the middle of the road, like selling newspapers. Like, I've never seen that before. And when the light's red, the guy runs around selling the Sunday paper for whatever it was, $2. Anyway, so we're coming up, lights coming green, guys out there in the way, and I almost hit him because I didn't expect anybody to be there. I stopped. And I awkwardly was looking at this guy and we're like, "Oh, you got $1 for this buy paper?" Because I just felt guilty. We bought the paper, went to church, went home, opened the paper, and our Pensacola News Journal is 5 sections. Right? Well, so that's 16 pages in a section. The entire big section, front and every page, was all about how toxic Pensacola's flower was. So somebody said, I think it might have been this joke about flame. U.S. News and World Report had put out a report about the top 10 worst cities in like the late 90s. Now, mind you, this is 2000. So this is probably like a 1998 or 1997 report. And it said that Pensacola was in the top 10 worst cities in the country for water quality. And we had 2 power plants, crystal solution power plants, and they would literally inject their toxins down like 400 feet in the ground, which is where we get our water from the aquifer. So from Jacksonville, Florida, all the way across to New Orleans, that whole area, the water that comes up from an aquifer, freshwater aquifer. So Pensacola has been toxic for decades. Why? It's got all those military bases. It's World War II. So I asked my Marine Corps, could you send me to Pensacola to fight cancer so I could go to work every day wearing a uniform, training the next generation? I want to feel like I'm being a part of the fight. And he said, yes, which was a wonderful thing. Then I get to Pensacola in the first week and I realized I just moved to one of the most toxic cities in the country. So you would think I just totally trumped the will of God, because I took myself out of one place and put myself in a very toxic place. But the fact that I got those orders, I never should have gotten them, because when you get sick, they don't move you. The Marine Corps doesn't do that. Somebody showed favor upon me, put me in the classroom to get to do what I wanted to do. It was a blessing. So here I am in this really toxic city trying to fight cancer with all those chapters. Not realizing that I just put myself in an even more toxic swamp than I had come from. And so I share that story because I want people to know it doesn't matter whether you're in Pensacola or Montgomery or Troy or, you know, up in New England where I grew up, the water's better. And we can prove that because I got a quote from the World Wildlife Federation. When I was in high school, WWF was the World Wrestling Federation. It's officially the World Wildlife Federation. And from an executive summary from the World Wildlife Federation titled "The Tip of the Iceberg: Chemical Contamination in the Arctic." Pollutants. This is a quote from this is an excerpt from the executive summary. Pollutants that were never produced or used in the Arctic are now showing up in this remote region of the Arctic Circle of the world, sometimes in higher concentrations than in countries where they were being used. Air, river, and ocean currents, drifting sea ice, and migrating wildlife carry industrial and agricultural chemicals from distant sites and production and use up to the polar environment. In many cases, transported chemicals to the Arctic from sources in Europe, Asia, and North America can occur in just a matter of days. So none of us, no one has ever sprayed DDT on ice fields. Like no one's going to use DDT as a pesticide on ice fields in the Arctic, but yeah, we do core ice liquids. There's DDT in the ice. So not that I think you guys think you break water, but just to drive home the point, I don't fear Pensacola because we protected our water. We've had it protected now for 25 years. And everywhere the government moved me during my last 18 years of military service, I took it with me and I installed it on the next house. And I always did it myself because I didn't like paying the subscription fees. So I would do that everywhere I went. It was pretty simple task. So I don't fear the water because I know that there is a solution. In the process of researching it, I talked to virtually every company you could think of: Culligan, Connecticut, Rainsoft. I talked to the water softener people. I talked to the distillation people. I talked to the RO people. And you would have all different sorts of presentations. So folks would come in, sit at the kitchen table with you, break open a bite of this big, and share all these different things. And then they would try to sell you their products. And their products were usually pretty limited. And very few of the individuals. I'm fighting for my life. I'm not fighting for a paycheck. They're fighting for a paycheck. I'm sitting across the table trying to get the best product for to beat cancer and protect my family. Who do you think at that table was the expert? Me or the salesman? You see where I'm going with that. And so I would ask questions, like they would say everything they had to say, and they're like, okay, great. So now that we've talked about the drinking water, what are we going to do for the bath? And they're like, oh, don't worry about that. I'm like, don't worry about it.
Carbon filter.
I'm like, do you not realize that the largest source of toxic load is what we bathe in? And you actually have to drink contaminated water for 5 years to get the same amount of toxic load that comes through your skin in 1 month of showers and baths. So I would throw that out to those individuals and they'd be dumbfounded. So they weren't experts in their product, but they weren't experts on the nature of water or the threat, the challenges that we have. There was a study, and I want to talk about fluoride just for a moment. This came from the American Journal of Public Health. Again, this is a quote. Going as far back as
Micah, they said Alex and David can't hear him very good. Can he talk louder or we turn him up? Talk louder, David. I know you can. Sergeant.
you know I can. Just didn't want to wake up short.
He's like, what is he saying? I can't hear him.
Let's do this. Let's do a second.
Project, David, project.
Yeah, let's.
Listening to the right microphone.
Oh, my dad said there's feedback. Maybe don't turn it up.
All right, now how that is.
How does that sound, Dad and Alex? I don't know if Jenna's on.
She just joined.
I'm going to project, but you just let me know. Just give me a thumbs up if that's wrong.
Okay.
So one of the things that I had shared, as far back as May of 1984, the American Journal of Public Health published an article authorized by Helena Brown, PhD, titled The Role of Skin Absorption and Root Exposure for volatile organic compounds in drinking water. And here's the quote. We found that skin absorption contributed to 29 and 91% of total dose, averaging 64%. We conclude the skin absorption of contaminants in drinking water has been underestimated, that ingestion may not constitute a sole or even primary route of exposure. That's going back to 1984. There was another book, and it was titled Coronaries, Chlorine, and Cholesterol by Dr. Joseph M. Price. Now, that book is out of print. It's from 1977, and I have a copy. And what Dr. Price theorized is that that heart disease was linked more to the deadly poison of chlorine than it was to cholesterol. Like, our body makes cholesterol, and I'm sure that if we wanted to take the time, Amanda could give us a class on how cholesterol actually isn't a bad thing, because it has a purpose. It serves a purpose. When we started putting chlorine in water, which is not, it's not bad that our government does that, because if we don't chlorinate the water, what happens? We end up having bacteria, bugs, and other things that will get to us. We'll have dysentery and cholera and all those kind of things like third world countries have. We want the chlorine in the water up until it gets to the point of use, whether it's the sink, the tub. I often joke with folks when I'm talking to them. I was like, my house has a whole house water filter. My neighbor's doesn't. So as long as, my children flush the toilet, when we leave and leave the toilet cover up, say we go away for, the whole bed, we leave that toilet seat up. So if the dogs run out of water, they can drink out of the toilet. They're getting better water than my neighbors.
Wow.
If you think about it, right? So it's the toilet. And we just these problems. So you know it is. No chemicals. So if you go back to the advent of chlorination, that's when we started seeing the spike of heart disease in North America. So that was just one of those things. So anyway, I just want to share some of those. There's a lot more information there. I felt it important that somebody was, you can imagine the shock that we had when I was dealing with cancer fight. The first thing you do is you want to learn about, okay, I got told I have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and then they said it was a primary bone lymphoma. So you're just reading everything you can about the disease. I'm learning about this type of cancer. Not all cancer, just much, right? You become the expert more so than your doctor. And that's just a reality. And I had doctors tell me, so I said, well, what about this, and this? Like, you're more of an expert in it than I am, because you're spending all your time studying this. I can tell you what I can tell you from the AMA, what I'm allowed to tell you, because there's things they can't say because they don't study that. They don't study nutrition whatsoever. And not to beat them up, because doctors will tell you, I don't know nutrition. I never studied that. And the only thing I know about vitamin C and E is how they interact with pharmaceuticals that I'm supposed to give you and tell you not to take those vitamins, different times. So you have some great doctors that would explain that type of stuff. But when I'm working with families, I felt that it was absolutely important to explain and put a lot of the science behind it. Like, what is the challenge? What are you up against? And the science behind the skin absorption piece. Excuse me.
Need some water?
So I'm gonna throw the scalp drops in. You got any thieves scalp drops?
Yes.
Because we are completely out. I burned through a bag of them. So what I want to do today, excuse me, is I wanted to introduce you to the AquaOx. And I want to show you what's inside it. Something that I rarely got when, thank you so much. Something I rarely got when I was trying to research water 25 years ago is like, how does it work? What does it do? And having a great relationship with the owner of the company, I was like, I want a page that shows them the inside, because that's what we really want to know. So you saw the pre-sediment filter outside. We typically don't send a pre-sediment filter with a city setup because you don't really need one. You absolutely have to have one on the well, because when the water table drops and it starts to pull up some of the grit and gravel, that will destroy the filter head. We don't want that. So that's why when you have a pre-sediment filter, that's for just make sure you have one. We got you one first. Pre-sediment filter, and you saw me, saw me flushing. And then we have filter rag. And the filter egg, the water kind of runs through the system, through a vortex generator, and it runs through filter egg. Filter egg, I want you to think filter egg like, you ever seen soda? You shake it up and see all those little flakes. They're very light and they're small, they're light, but they have a 1,000 fractured edges on them. And they have an amazing amount of surface area, kind of like the carbon. Carbon, though, is absorbing toxins and pulling this stuff out. The filter egg just catches it. It just holds it. And it holds it for 3 days until you backflush. And then when you backflush, that fluffs out and all that stuff comes out and it shoots out in the backflush line. Where did you flush yours to?
Just into the grass for today.
Yeah. And the grass is fine. Like if you had a flower bed, not an organic garden, but if you had a flower bed, you could throw that over there. If you had a tree, you could send that. It's going to flush for about 17 to 20 minutes. And it's going to send about 15 gallons over every 3 days to flush the system out. So it basically does its own maintenance, right? It's a zero maintenance system. It back flushes every 3 days. So instead of like every 6 months or every year having to go out and replace the media, this is going to last you for a million. Yeah. The tank you have is a $1 million gallon tank. I had 6 kids, 2 horses, 1 dog for every child. Still do it. Goats and chickens. We even now have a 40-pound turtle for my Marine son who's flying F-35s in Japan in case the Marine Corps wouldn't let him take his turtle. So we were just, we thought we were a farm, but we're a zoo. And so we have all the stuff. And we have a 30,000-gallon pool. Who has that pool?
They both have pools. They all three have pools.
Okay. So my 30,000-gallon pool, when I fill it up, whenever it gets low and I have water, it's coming from AquaOx. So I mean, yes, it is a salt pool, so I am salt generating and doing what it's going to do for the sake of the pool, because you kind of can't get away with that in an environment where it's going to just turn green. But the water that's going in doesn't have anything else in it, which is huge, right? So I had my first tank. I had it for 11 years. I had 4 kids, and then we had cancer. We had 2 more kids, and then we bought the farm, and then we had horses and the goats and the chickens and all that. So in 11 years, I replaced my first tank. And before I did, we sent multiple samples to the owner and the colonel who passed away, my buddy Mike. We sent that to him, and we had like $3,000 worth of testing. You know, I didn't pay for it. They're like, let's see how good this filter is before we replace it. And it came back, everything that we wanted out was non-detected. They did battery tests after battery tests, $3,000. And I said, you're fine. And I said, great. Send me a new one anyway. Because I was celebrating 10 years cancer-free. And I said, it was my gift to me. And I was like, it's great today, but it's 10 years old. How long is it going to last? I want, just give me a new one. So I bought a new one. I invested in it. Didn't have the deals that we have today, but we were working in that direction. We've now sold, helped over 800 families clean up their water in our cancer industry. First, probably 10 years, it was mainly all cancer warriors. And everybody here, everybody here. So, good and best. So, over the years, through the last 5 years between the book and with what we're doing with Family Living, we actually work now with as many healthy people as we do folks that are dealing with catastrophic illness. So we've actually worked with a lot of families that are healthy, obviously. So but because of the volume of filters that we moved, the owner of the company has always given my wife and I like the greatest discount for the cancer warriors and then for my military buddies and for anybody that works. So, and I've been able to work something that want to fill out for you guys too. While I'm on that, there's no pressure for you guys to buy tonight. You don't have to buy tonight, right? If we can get 4 families to purchase at the same time, the $250 shipping will be given back to everybody because we can put them all in one pallet. Because then maybe you're all in the same community. We can ship it here or to your house, which you're getting one, and everyone can just like pick them up there. And now we save $1,000 and ship it amongst 4 families. And then we get 5 or 6 or 7. Once we get past 4, we'll do it. If one person bought, it'll go right to your house. We pay $250 for shipping. And so that's just the shipping. On the price side, we'll get to this in a moment. We've got another great deal. But I just wanted to go back here for a moment so you can understand what Michael was saying earlier about, yeah, I'm not changing things out, I'm not doing all that stuff. It's zero maintenance. It back flushes every 3 days. If we lose power, it won't backfill. So let's say that we had a hurricane and you guys lost power for 2 weeks. As long as the water's coming to you from the county, your water is going to go through the AquaOx because it doesn't work off of electricity. And are they hearing me now?
Yeah, they're asking, telling us questions to ask.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely have time for questions. So, and no, I'm not taking my shirt off. Thanks. So the where's the other one? Okay, so if we lose power, you're protected because it's done all mechanical. The water goes through, it goes through the media, it comes to you, it's filtered. We learned something tonight about their fridge. Every fridge that has a water dispenser has a filter, and that filter is only carbon. It's only carbon. Carbon breeds bacteria. How do we avoid that? Yeah, it does. If you had a filter that was only carbon, after a few months, it would start to build bacteria inside it. And that would be a problem.
Want some AquaOx water?
No, I apologize. I went out to Alaska for my son's wedding. And then while I was there, I did some really epic hikes with my daughter to prove that the open heart surgery had worked. And of course, I overdid it and got a head cold. So I'm dealing with that now. Thank you very much. Just got a tickle I got to lose. When the power comes back on, say you lost power for like 5 days, when the power comes back on at midnight that first day, the system will backflush, and whatever it had captured during those last few days is going to be, exfoliated. All right. So that's the system. These are the benefits. This is the AquaOx website, right? It does have a 10-year warranty. It is designed very specifically not to adversely affect your water pressure. To me, that's a huge selling point. The most important one is maintenance free, because I want to be able to invest in something, put a few $1,000s into it, and then not worry about it. Right? I don't want to have to stay on top of it all the time like we do with our swimming pools or with other types of challenges. But I love this. When you put the filter on, the way that vortex fan works is it's designed to not have a constriction from all of that media. So your water pressure is very close to what it was when we installed the filter from the food. So to me, that's absolutely huge. Now I want to drive a point home. You've had the AquaOx for how long?
2 years. 2.
2 years or longer.
2023. I sent it to Anna.
Okay. So 2023, 24, 25-ish, right? We're almost done 25. So you have one type of water supply. And now you've moved over here up in the county, you have a different water supply. It is going to behave differently. It's going to react differently. So what you had in that city water was highly treated and highly contaminated because they probably added things like fluoride and they added chlorine significantly. Question for you. Has Alabama done what Florida's doing in getting rid of fluoride out of their drinking water? I don't think so. Not yet. Okay. All right. So we can talk more about that in a moment. But now you're out here in the county. And so you're going to have different water quality. Jane, you talk about the Pike County report. So actually, let's see. This is your water quality report for January to December of 2024. And in there, you can see all of the different things that are in your water. So you can search this and you can see what your challenges are. The one thing that I want to ask you about that you're probably gonna need to do a little bit of research on is, what is the hardness here now that you're not in the city, you're out in county? Because if the water is harder than it was there, right, the AquaOx can handle a certain level of hardness, but if it's like really excessive, then you need to have softener to remove the magnesium, the manganese, and the calcium, so that the AquaOx itself can continue to do its job uninterrupted and give you that 1 million gallons of water. Right? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And the reason I was talking earlier about, you know, all the kids, the horses, the big pool, is I went 11 years and that filter was still working fine with all of that load. And I still got another one at that point. I'm down to 2 kids at home, not 6, no horses, no goats, just chickens and dogs. And I'm anticipating taking that filter out to about year 15. Does that make sense? Because it's a much slower load, and I know the quality it is.
Did you say you got a new one?
Mhm.
You did get a new one?
I did at year 11. Yep,
Have you looked at our water report?
I have. I've been peeking at it when I'm
I don't
trying
really
to.
understand how to read it, but when I look at it looks like they give you a range.
Yeah.
And then they give you what hours it is. We're at the maximum on everything that the range is.
Okay, so that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to show you. So, yeah.
So.
You see how it throws out an MCL on the top, and it says maximum contaminant level and maximum contaminant level global. And I'm looking for where they pop that out. It should be this column here.
The maximum is operating under the first part, well, when someone she says, yeah, the measure, yeah.
Or yes, doesn't mean it's not there, at least not. Because.
You're in perspective.
Well, here it is, maximum contaminant level goal and maximum contaminant level. So the difference between the maximum contaminant level goal and level, the level is the legal limit. The maximum contaminant level goal is what the EPA says is what you want. If they say the maximum contaminant level goal is 0, it means anything above 0 is a hazard. But the maximum contaminant level is the amount that you can have without them being in violation with government standards. So I always tell folks, don't look at the maximum contaminant level, look at the maximum contaminant level goal. What you want to do is drive your numbers down to the goal of 0. Does that make sense?
A little weird feel because technically, I'm sure y'all done some analysis in
Yeah.
different areas.
And it will take things down to a non-detectable level. Here's what you need to look at when you look at these numbers is there a violation? And oftentimes there's a category or there's a window that says yes or no, right? So I'm looking for, if it says violations, and violation is such a negative thing that oftentimes they take it off the category and then they put it down into a report saying there were no violations, as opposed to going violations, yes, no, 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 no. But what they've typically done in a lot of communities is, we take lead, for example, and it's supposed to be at a certain place and it goes up from year to year, and they just go in and they change the maximum contaminant level so that it's now the levels here and it's it's in the legal limit. They just kind of move the shell game. So I'm like, don't even worry about this. Let's just go for what CEQ said. If it's 0, that's what we want to fight for. If it's something smaller than that, we're probably going to be fine because our goal is to drive these things down the circuit. I say that the AquaOx takes about 98% of things out of your water. The reason it's not 100% is we want it to keep your minerals. We want the minerals to be in the water. If we don't, right, we change the condition, we change the dynamic of the water. Let me do one thing. I'll be right back.
It's still on.
Okay, so sorry about that. Chanel fit in there. The folks that came in and talking about water back in the day, what they said was, if we'll put a softener on the outside of the house to get rid of the hardness, then we're going to put an RO under your sink. When you reverse osmosis water or you distill water, and there's a place for that, there's a value to it. the water becomes aggressive. So if you're cleansing, distilled water is a good thing. Like say I'm doing colonics. I want to use distilled water. I just don't want to use it out of a plastic jug because that aggressive water has pulled plastic out of the jug and lets out the machine and it pumps. I want to use distilled water out of glass jugs. Well, where can you buy that? Exactly. But if you have your own AquaOx, you take in and you clean the water, and it's not aggressive. It has whatever level of mineral content that got put in the water is still there. Unless you live in a community that has excessively hard water. So, when you RO the water at the sink, yeah, there'll be a way that I can find hardness, top third, total hardness, right under magnesium. It says 0.6. I can do a calculation on that here in a moment. Specific 555. 222. Calculator. There's a 5 divided by 17. Yeah, it could be pretty hard. I'm going to run that report back to the owner and then look at the numbers. Do you guys feel like you got hard water?
My hair says yes.
I think it's harder than the city water.
Okay.
I think county water's harder than city water.
If the number that I'm looking at, the 555,
Yes. You have city water. Yeah, I have city water.
Yeah. I think your total hardness is 185. If you divide that by a factor of 17, that gives you a number of over 10. Once the factor is above 5, you got hard water, and it's going to be hard for the AquaOx to keep up. You go for a period of time. It does shorten the life of your filter over time. Okay. Because it's working extra hard. And you definitely have room in your shed to put a software with that. But so what I would say for you guys is give it the next 6 months and see how it performs. And if you're like, I'm loving it, it's just doing great, then it's probably able to keep up. But if it doesn't, we can always add software to it. Okay. All right. So I wanted you to just see that's the kind of stuff and that's the level of research that you want to do. Before I go further, I've seen a lot of texting, so I know there's questions. So I've given a little bit of my background. You know why they have a filter. You understand why I believe this is the best in my relationship with the company. The AquaOx is different than the other filters because it's not software. It's a purifier. So it's going to filter the water down to that 90% as opposed to 100 like reverse osmosis, which makes the water mineral free and aggressive. When you take the minerals away from the water through the distillation or reverse osmosis, water has a memory. Anybody familiar with homeopathy? Okay. The concept of homeopathy is, there's a memory to it. So you take something like tarantula, it's venom, and you turn it into a homeopathic remedy called tarantula, which is great for restless legs. You're not going to give somebody tarantula venom for their restless legs. You can tell them, suck it up and stop shaking the bed. Or you can give them tarantula, but you put a couple of those like 20 cc, whatever they call them, and then you stick it under your tongue and it works. But there's no tarantula venom in it at all. It's just a little, sugar tablet that had tarantula venom in it, but it was slowly removed over time, making that homeopathic remedy down to where it has a memory of tarantula venom, but there's none in it. When you take reverse osmosis water and you can remove calcium, magnesium, and manganese out of that water now goes into your body. And what does it have? A memory. And what does your body have? Calcium. So now that reverse osmosis is not only got a lower pH because it tends to get slightly acidic when you take the minerals out. It also is aggressive, and now you can create things long term over time. You're drinking clean water, but you're pushing yourself toward osteoporosis and things like that, because now it's going to try to leach the calcium from your own body, your own bones. So not a big fan of reverse osmosis and distillation unless you absolutely have to have it.
You are not a fan of reverse osmosis.
Not a fan of reverse osmosis.
The AquaOx, I didn't get it yet.
No. There's a time and a place for it,
Oh, okay.
right? So let's say that your fluoride, right, is sodium fluoride. The only way to get it out is through reverse osmosis.
Mhm.
If your fluoride is hydrofluorosic acid, and there's a large percentage of communities in the United States that use fluorosic acid to fluoridate the water. It's not fluoride at all. It's a byproduct of a phosphate fertilizer industry and aluminum manufacturing. And then they dump those chemicals into our water. And so you go back decades ago, they said, the government said to these industries, you're poisoning the water. And they refine them greatly. So what they did is they would figure out how to extract that, right? Just like the paper mill has those filters that smells terrible, but they pull a lot of bad stuff out with those filters and those scrubbers. Same idea. And they figured out how to get that hydrofluoric acid out, but then they would repackage it. And who did they sell it to? The very government that was penalizing them for making the water toxic. They gave it to the government, sold it to them, and now the government puts it in the water to fluoridate the water. And I'm not going to go any further into the fluoridation stuff because it's just absolutely mind-boggling that our government would do that to us because it's not really fluoride. It's toxic and it creates a tremendous amount of problems. One of the studies that I put in here was a study done in Dartmouth College in 1999, where they tested over 2,000 children from Massachusetts in a newly fluoridated community. It's like Pensacola, Florida didn't start fluoridating until 1999. New England, where I grew up, was already fluoridated when I was a kid, right? But Pensacola didn't start fluoridating until right before I moved there in January of 2001. They had just started fluoridating. And we have been fighting, my wife, myself, and others have been fighting for 20 years to get it out. We're finally winning. Yeah, huge. But it's because we have the governor we have, and we have the Surgeon General that we have. And Surgeon General is definitely tight with RFK Jr. And they're all like, yeah, we got to go to fluoride. So they're like, so. But in the meantime, I haven't worried about it. So how AquaOx. Okay. We have hydrofluoric acid for fluoridation. So it's basically lead, mercury, and arsenic in this like toxic compound, and the AquaOx breaks it into its own compartments. If you're, and I have to do some research on here to determine what your fluoride is, if you even have it, but I got to check. That fluoride, if it's sodium fluoride, the only way to take it out is either reverse osmosis, which you already have, or it's bone char, which is like another tank. It looks just like the AquaOx. So it looks just like the AquaOx. This is the XL, that's the AquaOx, and that's the carbon tank. It looks just like that, but it's not normal carbon. It's bovine bone that has been charred to make the carbon, because what they were learning about those children in Dartmouth, that Dartmouth University study, was that adolescent, pre-adolescent, like 11, 12, 13-year-old boys were having a higher incidence of bone cancer than normal communities. And they tied it back to the fluoride. So you got to use bone charts. So think about bone cancer correlation. You take bovine bone and then you char it, turn it into carbon, and then you run the water through there. It takes the fluoride out, but it's either activated aluminum. None of us want that because of all the bad things that aluminum does. Reverse osmosis, which is okay because it's the lesser of all evils. And a lot of folks believe in RO thoroughly. And I don't want to steal that from them. I just want to drive home the point that it will pull the minerals. If you get a softener, the minerals are going to be gone anyway by the time it gets to the RO. So the only reason to have an RO is to change the flavor after a softener to get that salt flavor out, and also to get rid of anything like fluoride. Or do you guys remember the movie Aaron Brockovich? Mm-hmm. Aaron Brockovich, and it's a great story, and it's really well done. That movie was well done in telling the story in a very truthful manner. Basically kind of drove that little mom and pop lawyer guy to really go after him, staying alive, going after the petroleum industries, because one of the byproducts of the petroleum industry is chromium, hexo, something, and that's where we get chromium 6. chromium hexo something, something, something. It's a really long word. It's about 47 letters long. But we just call it chromium 6. That's exactly what was in the water supply that was making all those people sick and having those little cancer plumes. That lawyer fought and won and got all those settlements for those families and got him on the map. And wanted to be one of the biggest law firms in the country because of that. So chromium 6 is only going to come out of the water with reverse osmosis. Not a problem here because we don't manufacture, we don't do petroleum products like in our backyards. We have paper mills and such, but that's not the threat. Does that make sense? All right, let's do this. I want to introduce you guys to the AquaOx that we have, that I have, that man that Mike have. I also want to introduce you to the XL, one that is the 2000 2 million gallon system. They're on the board. But before we get into that, I want to answer questions because I know that there are some, and I've only got about 10 or so minutes left to discuss this. So let's answer questions first, and then we can talk about the offer on the table.
Okay, so you already have a reverse osmosis under your sink.
Yep.
So if you get the AquaOx, do you recommend keeping that and just making sure that there is a way to remineralize your water?
Exactly.
Because I know that you can do that. Too.
Absolutely can do that.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
So that's not a problem. And if you already have an RO, you don't need an RO from AquaOx. An
Right.
RO is an RO is an RO. It's
Okay.
just they're all pretty much the same thing.
When you replaced yours, you just bought a whole new tank, so you just pay the price for the tank, which is 34.
Mhm. Yeah, because you could send that tank back, right? You could disconnect it. You could ship it back, which would be incredibly expensive
Right.
because it's so much heavier now than what it was when it came to you because it's not dry, it's wet. And that's going to always be heavier. They can break it down, or at least they have in the past, and then they can change all the media out and then send you a new one and only charge you for the media because you already got the tank. And in the end, it ended up costing a few $100s more because of the expenses of shipping, because of the weight for setting it up there and the time. And it just makes more sense to just get a new one. So,
And how do you know when you need a new one?
great question. Water test. So let me borrow that for a second. Whose water was this, by the way?
Melissa.
Okay, so you brought me water from your tap. Don't be scared. You have some kind of filter on. Nothing at all? That's straight tap water?
Nothing.
You don't have like even just a basic, it wasn't from your fridge. Okay, so typically what happens is there was an amazing video that was on our old website that is, I don't think it's there. But the old website had this great video. And Mike, the owner of the company, I had showed him this trick because I had learned this when I was, we're now going back. Yeah, 25 years ago. It was when I was first learning about water. We had a pool in the backyard and had a testing kit. I did some research. I read somewhere that you can see how much chlorine absorbs into your finger by taking a shot glass of water and then taking 5 drops of the testing kit. So it's just a little shot glass and you go drop, and you'll see it turn yellow. So it'll turn as yellow as what you're seeing on that cup right there, or it can get as bright as that on that sippy cup, right? Or even go full on orange and it's really high. So the more chlorine you have, the higher that yellow color gets.
That's regular tap water.
That's just regular tap water. Okay, well I didn't have a shot glass. I just had a regular glass. But I put 5 drops in there. I put 5 drops in there and it didn't change. So here's the concern with that. That means at the moment, your chlorine level is not where it ought to be. It could be the fact that it's a holiday and you don't have normal staffing. And so like the normal uptake for the proper amount of chlorine or whatever they would normally put in there might be on the low end. Or it can be cyclical throughout the day that it comes in. So you have times when the chlorine's high and then it's low or whatever. So the fact that it's out there, I wouldn't panic. But I thought, maybe they have a filter on the tap. That's what I thought, because there was no chlorine. when I did it.
Did you just get the sample work before you came to the principal? But at that time, the gas off.
No, because it will gas out over time. Yeah, that's fine. What I did was I would take and I would show that, and I would do the sample. I put the drops in, and then I would dump that out, and I would then grab another sample and same water. I would just turn the faucet on. I would stick my finger in there, and I would do this for about 10 seconds. And when I was done, I would put 5 drops into that water, and it would be clear. It wouldn't turn yellow because all that chlorine went into my finger. It's the skin absorption demo. So that's what I wanted to show you, but there was no chlorine in the water, the demo. So my point to that is, it's okay. It's okay. I had a great finger with that. And I love that because I said, you guys need to put this right on your website. Like, you can talk to people all day long about skin absorption. And you can run the numbers and stats and say 29 to 60, maybe 60-something% like I do. But when you just put a video up there and you stick your finger in there, you just for a while, it drops in and it's gone. That's like, okay. And if that's just chlorine, there's 7,000 different contaminants in our water. If you go back to your water quality report, which I believe was this one, well, don't worry about it. That water quality report only shows you probably around 30 contaminants in their thousands, right? And then you think about the contamination or the combinations of that. But anyway, so I couldn't show that to you, but that video's out. All right, other questions?
Do you have someone who can just install them?
I do. I've got a friend named Ricky. I call him Mr. Ricky. He's a salt of the earth handyman guy. He's awesome. The company will give you a 10-year warranty as long as you use a licensed and insured plumber of your choice. So you can install it yourself and your warranty's good. You can get a licensed plumber and your warranty's good, or you can use Ricky. Ricky's not a licensed plumber, he's a handyman, but he has done about 100 of these for me. He's vetted, he's awesome. And anytime I'm working with somebody who's dealing with cancer, he's the guy.
So your warranty's good regardless of which factory.
Yes, as long as, if you get a plumber, like if you hire ABC Plumbing, as long as they're licensed and insured, you're gonna be okay. Because if there's an issue, then it's gonna be between the company and the plumber. And if the guy's not insured, it's gonna be like, whatever, man. You know, he's not gonna, they're gonna work that out amongst themselves. I wanted to do something.
Your guy was insured.
My guy is,
He's just that good.
he's just that good. He's not a ABC plumbing guy. He is Mr. Ricky. He's phenomenal. And he's done every one that I've ever had in my area. So he's done all of the principal ones. He has gone all the way to what's just north of New Orleans. Metairie. He's done one there. He's done a couple of 38s. He's gone all the way up to almost Birmingham. So he's done a lot of different ones for me. He doesn't mind traveling, but he does charge for travel. But he's that good in his base charge is $1,000. The deal I have for you guys today is going to take me, I think you got about $700 something. It's like $1,200 something. So
He could come and like do all of ours. Okay.
he could. He probably, he'd probably be like 1 day or so. It takes about a day to do it. If you know what you're doing.
Might have
So, yeah, absolutely. So he could be an option for you, but you don't have to use him. You can do it yourself and save $1,000.
Probably gotta make it nice.
And that's fine too. It's the peace of mind is worth it because he's done it and he's done it right. I've had plumbers, like somebody will, let's say you just hire a plumber.
It's hard enough just to do. that.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to get a license and make sure you love it.
And what I found, so I've got filters, all the way up into Washington State and California, dozens of them in Texas, a lot of young living friends. When I reach out to a plumber, the challenge is that plumbers are like fire products. You can't tell them. Like if you hire your own plumber, that's great. What I would encourage you to do is just connect them with me And then what I would do is I would get them on the phone and I would be like, hey, appreciate you taking a minute to talk to me. I'm not a plumber or fire pilot, but I have installed a few dozen of these for fellow cancer warriors. And so I've learned a few tips and tricks along the way. This is not a softener. And that's what plumbers typically deal with, is softeners, because they're so prevalent. They're not used to seeing something like this. So a softener, you can just slap it together and turn it on and just run the water into the salt bucket or the resin bucket, and you're like ready to rock and roll. You can't do that with one of these because you have all of that awesome stuff in there. Right? You have all this stuff in there that's brand spanking new from the manufacturer, and there is a ton of carbon dust in there. So if you just plug it in, fill it up with water, turn it on, the beautiful white soap and toilets are going to turn purple from the carbon dust. And so I've had them do that, and they're like, hey, you're all set. Give me $1,500. And then the water comes on, and I get a phone call. And they're like, what's wrong with the AquaOx? I'm like, nothing, they didn't malfunction. So after having that happen a few times, I asked them, just let me talk to your plumber. So you can do that. You can get a local guy. You can go with Ricky. You probably save a few $100s if you go with Ricky, but you know it's going to be
I
done.
was about to say that, yeah.
So you just need to know where your water line is and then he can go.
Yeah, and what happens is where the main water line is, we cut it, and then we go into the AquaOx, and then we come out of the AquaOx, we're right back into the main line. Let's say that your main line could go really awkward place, like the front of the house, right? That's hard. So what we do is we find it. Ricky finds it, and I recommend Ricky because I trust him, and he's done so well for the last 10 years for me. He has never given me like a referral or a kickback. Like he's offered to, and I'm like, nope, that's your money. That's for you. And he's semi-retired. I said, that's for you. And if you want to give some back, give it back to my customer, because almost the majority of my customers are dealing with significant health issues. So I don't get anything back from that. So when I say we, I mean Ricky. So Ricky will find where that main line comes in if you haven't already. And then so, hey, where do you want your filter? I'm like, well, I don't want it right by my front door. I want it over on the side of the house. So he would just trench over to that place, and he'd usually bring somebody to do that. So that you have the two of them, and he would trench over there, and then he would set the tank up, do all the plumbing, and then you can go over there and go, okay, I'm going to shut your water off for like the next 3 hours. And then you shut the water off, cut it, and then you run the pipes to and from, and then flush it, and then turn your water back on. So he could be here for half a day, and still have water. He's not going to shut the water off until he's ready to type it.
Okay.
Yep. All of your questions.
Do you recommend if it can be put in your garage, to put it in your garage?
I like that the best. I'm sorry. Basements are the best, but we don't have basements.
Right, yeah.
Basements are the best because you basically, we're in the basement right now. If I look up here, the main line comes right out of the wall, and you just go, put the AquaOx there, and you just cut it, you plumb it, you're done. It's so great, and you're out of the elements. Here, where we all have slabs, like I do, like you do, the garage is the best place, but it doesn't have to be that way. I'm going to show you a picture.
I've seen a lot of people put it in their garage.
The garage is absolutely a wonderful place to put it because it's out of the elements, and when the temperature goes down and it's 22 degrees out there, it's not 22 in your garage. And literally, you can just throw a blanket over in the garage, and you're going to be fine. But I want to pass this picture around. Because one of my buddies is a retired military guy. He and all of his children were gone. He and his wife bought a tiny little place down by the water. And they're like, I got a guest room, and that's all I need. And he didn't have a garage, and he had very little space in the house. I mean, they went and downsized to like 1,200 feet. It's just the two of them. And he's like, this thing's not going inside, so what are we going to do? And I said, we're going to put it in the ground. And so this is 5 feet tall and 11 inches in that, or 7 inches in diameter. So this is a picture of an AquaOx 3 feet in the ground, 2 feet above, and the pre-sediment filter and the head are in there. And then this is just one of those.
Like you put cushions in, for.
Yeah, this is a box, like a plastic toolbox from Lowe's. And instead of when you built the box, you just didn't put the bottom on. And you put pavers and then anchored him into the ground. And then he just had a electrical line placed so that he could just have power. So, and then when it backflushes, he dug the backflush line to go out to where he had some shrubs. So That's an option too, but if you can go indoors, that's definitely the best.
We had it in the garage.
I was thinking if you had texted that, you texted it to me.
I was like, how did you get into my phone?
No, you texted it to me.
All right. That was awesome. Yeah, that's a really great thing. All right. Any other questions?
So let's talk about the money.
Okay. So here's the money right here. The AquaOx that I have, the AquaOx that Mike has, is this one right here. And again, it's good for 1 million gallons of water. It's the retail price is $34.99. The website price originally was $49.99, and the AquaOx XL was $59.99. The prices are where they are right now, and they've pretty much been that way. You guys bought it a couple of years ago. This retail price is pretty much what it's been steady. Coming out of COVID, there was a drop because COVID created all kinds of hell in so many ways, to including logistics. Like I couldn't get AquaOx XLs for a year, the big ones. Anyway, but the prices came down on the backside of it COVID, and it's been that price. That's actually the retail price, right? So no gains, just showing you what the price was, what the price currently is. That $34.99, I've been able to get a 15% discount. The website, if you go there on your own, it gives you an opportunity to spin the wheel for a savings. I get the max savings every time for my customers. It's 15%, which is going to put that down around $2,900. All right, $2,900, and then the shipping's $250. If you were to pair that with and add a water softener, because you needed one. And I'm going to talk to the owner and ask about the hardness piece. But you could add a softener, do that combo, AquaOx and water softener, and you'd be looking at that price. What I wanted to offer you guys is between you and your family and friends, and parents, it sounded like there was going to be 4 or 5 or 6 families that were going to be really interested in this. So I told the owner about this before I went to Hawaii about a month ago. I've got some families, they're all health conscious. They don't all have health issues, but no doubt this is 1 or 2 here. I want to make sure that I can pass my unlimited, best savings on. He said, I'm going to do you one better. If you actually have 4 more and you want to give them an upgrade to the XL, he's like, just sell them the XL. And instead of it being, right, just like the real prices here, it's $49.99. He says, I'll give you a $1,200 discount. We'll sell it for $37.50. So you're basically getting this guy for that one's price. So I said, okay. And I said, and I don't want them to pay shipping. He's like, if we get 4, we'll put 4 on the pallet, or 5 or 6. I can put up to 6 XLs on a pallet. And if we do that, then when you order online, the shipping automatically drops in there to Alabama. It's $250 to Alabama from South Carolina. He'll go back in and they'll manually refund everybody's credit card to $250 for the shipping if we get 4. Don't feel like you got to make that decision tonight. And I even told him, I said, I just want to educate folks. I'm going to let you guys decide, let folks see the video. But if you come up with 4 families, we'll put them all on the pallet and we'll send it to one person. And then we can pick it up from their house in pickup truck or whatever. Or Ricky can come and if your house ends up being like the base of operation, that's where the filters go. Ricky could go there if he comes up to do these. He could just grab one and go to the next house, because I'm assuming we all live fairly close.
I've been listening on your live.
So you know me.
Oh, well, some.
I'm
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Jenna Beaver.
Jenna, great to meet you.
Sorry, I was trying to slip in, but
Well, sorry, I was talking too soft in the beginning. I hope you heard most.
I didn't even hear the beginning because I was in the car with my children. So
Okay.
that wasn't a you. That was a children.
No worries. I get it. A lot of little ones.
Okay, what would be the reason to get the extra large as opposed to the
Twice as long, last twice as long.
it lasts twice as long?
It will last for 2 million gallons instead of one. And
So that lasts 20 years,
it will last 2 million gallons of water.
2 million gallons.
So when I so 11 years after I bought mine, and I was celebrating, it was September, I was celebrating 10 years cancer free. I'm like, okay, I'm getting a new filter. We didn't have excess. So I got that. The next time I get one, I'm getting this, even though all the kids are gone and it's just my wife and I want that protection all the way to the end. And I want to buy them. You know, I didn't have that option 13 years ago. But I'm on this. I'm in my 13th year. And it's still working. And that was a really, really important question asked earlier. I didn't answer it very well. I went and grabbed the test and then we got lost in your water. You asked, how do you know when it's not working?
Yeah.
The number one, the largest contaminant in our water by volume, not the most dangerous, but the largest by volume is chlorine. Right now, you don't have it because it's probably Veterans Day and there wasn't anybody there to, open it up and flip the switch. But typically what happens is, when the AquaOx isn't working because the chlorine, which is the highest volume contaminant, comes through and now you're in the shower. And if you've had an AquaOx and then you haven't had an AquaOx, you will know that it's not working because your hair will your skin hair. So you've been without the AquaOx for how many years?
2 years. We had for 2 weeks when we moved in here.
And how much is
She
it?
complained 20 times a day until I got it installed. Oh,
So
and she was like, it's making me so nauseous.
so you felt it on
Well,
your
it
skin.
was so strong in the kids' room. My cleaning lady was like sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what is this smell? It was strong.
Michael, you know how to bypass your AquaOx?
Mhm.
Can you go bypass it?
I sure can.
And we're gonna make some people sick.
No.
No, I'm not. No, go ahead and bypass it and, I'm gonna see if I can do that. I'm gonna see if I can do that chlorine test. We'll get chlorine back into your tap. But I think one of the best questions that was asked tonight is how do you know when it's not working anymore? And that's how you know, because the chlorine will bleed through the system and you'll know. And if it's bleeding through, other things can as well.
Where's he going?
He's just turning off the AquaOx.
So
So I can turn on the kitchen sink and I can get some.
They're on the same floor as you. Like I live in.
Oh, that's right. It's the same
Well,
one.
let's just see. Let's just see. And you never know. We can try.
That's okay.
We're on the same. He's already.
Yeah.
It's already good. That's true. That's a good point.
There's still.
Never mind. If they're on the same- Water, something going.
You didn't know.
Sorry about that.
She literally.
Well, is there where you live?
About 6 hours. I didn't know that.
Yes.
My mother-in-law, sister-in-law is possibly gonna be on also, and then the name's name, so.
Yeah. They're also
They'll be on
counties.
the list.
So are you saying that we do need softeners out here?
I'm saying I need to make a phone call tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to send your water quality report to AquaOx.
Okay. Gives us a number. Is that? Is that?
Actually, it's,
It says.
yeah, I want to say.
600.
Apartments.
Okay, I gotta go. This is recorded, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.